water, but we're gonna... Oh, man. How's everybody doing today? This is season 2, which is kind of crazy. We have officially hit season 2 of the podcast. The season 2, episode 1 of the Making Awesome podcast. We are going to be talking about the Elegoo Jupiter. Clearly, it's been all over the freaking news cycle. Like, seriously, all over the news cycle today. At least for the 3D printing world. Because it is one of the biggest printers launched in a while. Wexter says, first, sorry, can't stay, but I had to say hi. Hey, Maker Viking. He says hi to the both of us, Brad.
Hi.
But yeah, Brad, have you been following this whole story at all with this printer?
I know it was being launched on Kickstarter, and that's a controversial decision. That's about it all I've followed.
Yeah,
So I have not followed it.
That's probably like the basics that people need to know. And let's take a look at this. They raised $2 million in 30 minutes. $2 million in 30 minutes. Like, what?
They're at over 2.5 million now.
Yeah, I'm going to the Kickstarter right now so we can take a look. Yep, 2.5 million. The early bird, crazy, whatever's sold out within minutes. But there's a lot to talk about on this printer. So we did a video of this printer a while ago when it first came out. But some new things have come out. Okay. We now see that the machine itself is stronger and potentially, and I think they've already hit it, I think they're going to be going up to 500 millimeters. I'm going through real quick. They're using a 5-inch capacitive touchscreen. They have confirmed it is running a Qi2 board, and that was the one thing I was kind of bummed about surrounding this whole thing, is that they're still running that Qi2 board. And we don't have a solution yet. There is no solution. Actually, you know what? Before we get too far into it, Brad, tell them who you are and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I know they've heard it before, but, you know, some people are new to this, so let's get them the details before we get too deep.
I'm Brad. I 3D print all of the things and occasionally share them on Twitter. And I'm the person who does the notes so Grant knows what he's talking about in videos.
Or, you know, a little bit better than normal. Well, apparently Reddit didn't like my post. I'm being downvoted like crazy, so, oh well. I posted the live stream over in Reddit to see if people wanted to come hang out, but sucks to be them. Yes, I'm Grant. I own 3D Musketeers, which is the supporter, as always, for these podcast episodes. We help you get your ideas out of your head and into your hands using awesome technology like 3D printing, CNC milling, and laser cutting, and every now and then my cat comes and hangs out. This is Victoria. She is the most important staff member that we have. Sorry, Brad, but, you know, got to work with what you got.
Oh, no, that's not even a question.
Yeah, it's not even a question. This is, look at her. Oh, so tired. She was up all night, clearly working hard to make awesome for everybody. Definitely wasn't up all night biting my feet. No, she would never do that. But, yeah. The Elegoo Jupiter is, it's been wrought with a fair bit of controversy, at least from what I can see, right? We've got one side of the community that says, hey, if I can get the printer for pennies on the dollar, I'm going to get the printer for pennies on the dollar. Other parts of the community say, no, this is BS. We do not like this. Do not, you know, put a printer on Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is not a marketing platform. Kickstarter is design. What?
What I hear, it's not necessarily that people don't want printers on Kickstarter. It's that people don't want well-known, already established, popular companies using Kickstarter as a hype platform.
Exactly. And to the
But if it's like a
credit,
new, innovative thing, that's different. From what I can tell, is what people think is different and
see you,
is more
Wexter. Wexter's
acceptable
heading
to
out.
be
Wexter,
on.
we need to schedule you to come on this podcast. And Viking, if you want to come on, you're welcome to hang out too. But we're gonna have an episode with Wexter, and we'll get that one figured out eventually. But yeah, this cat feeding is not the problem. Just look. There's a lot of belly there. She eats fine, but no, she wants to play at 6 a.m., 2 a.m., whenever I'm trying to sleep. But that's all right. Yeah, I have to agree here, Brad. And I think the community's viewpoint is incredibly valid, right? This platform of Kickstarter is not there as a hype platform. It's not there as a marketing platform. But I got to put myself into Kickstarter's shoes for a second. I can't blame them for letting this happen. Okay, Kickstarter takes roughly 5%. 5% of $2.5 million. Because I didn't have that set ahead of time, let me just go to my calculator because, well, I mean, I should know it in my head because I was told my entire
It's
life that I
an
would
eighth of a
not have,
million.
massively awesome things in my pocket that could do stuff like this. It's $125,000.
Here's eighth of a million.
Huh?
It's an eighth of a million.
$125,000 that Kickstarter has made in 30 minutes, 40 minutes, whatever it's been.
Oh, it's almost at 2.6. He's got a couple
I
more
can't
backers.
I can't blame Kickstarter. This is an easy payday. But I have to sit here and say this is really not what your platform is designed to do. I believe that the Jupiter is a pretty awesome product, okay? We have automatic resin feeding, which I think is hilarious because it's basically just a flotation valve for a fish tank. Or I always made it akin to the little hamster ball bearing in the tube where they have to hit it to get water. But I think a really poignant point that somebody made is that if you've got a really long print, which can be incredibly common in these machines, that resin's going to settle out. And I didn't think about that, right? Because your pigment and your resin, they settle out of each other when the bottles sit idle. And so that's like
That's
a
an
weird
interesting
thing.
point.
Yeah, it's a point that I didn't think of. And oh, well, you know what? That's actually pretty valid. Also, by the way, hey, welcome all new viewers. I'm seeing a bunch of people coming in. Make sure you guys leave a like on the stream. And if you want to support us directly, we have links to our Patreon down in the description. You guys missed hanging out with Wexter. He was here a little bit earlier. But, yeah, I believe that it's a cool system, but it looks like it was just kind of shoddily added on. I'm going to link to their Kickstarter so people can, take a look. Brian, I don't know. Brian's here. I don't know if it's Weber or Weber. I'm pretty sure it's Weber. He says hi and hello. How you doing?
Hi.
But yeah, this automatic resin feeding system, I was pretty jived for this. I'm going all right, this is good, right? This was a concern that I had. I got to turn the camera just a little bit so we can get more of the baby cat in here. I was concerned initially with how are we going to add more resin? Because I've always said, all right, if my print runs out of resin, I'm going to monitor it and I'm just going to add more resin. Well, even during that print, resin settles out. And if your entire vat is settling out at the same time, that's fine. But if you're adding more resin in that isn't at the same settle, that's a problem. Web. Huh. Okay. Well, all right. I'm going to argue something here because people do it for me too. My last name is Posner, Posner, but phonetically it should be Posner. I would say that phonetically your name should be Weber because it's yeah. Anyways, Weber is fine. I understand. It's like, look, if you get the first name right and you don't say "Hey asshole," I'm generally happy here. Brad understands this, um, but good to know for the future. Thank you. Uh, I think that the resin autofilling was like an afterthought, right? They're like, oh crap, that's right. This
Mm-hmm.
thing is gonna hold like 3 liters of resin, and that's a pain in the ass, right? One, that's a lot of weight, and that's something that I think a lot of these companies are not taking into account because specifically mono screens are crazy fragile. I'm gonna move my mic a little bit. Yeah, mono screens are crazy fragile. And I'm concerned that all of that extra weight, if your FEP isn't properly tensioned, you could actually add undue stress to your screen. Nadav says hi. We've got. Oh, I'm not going to be able to do that name. Heino says hi. Is it Heino? I'm going to go with Heino. I might be wrong. But that's all right. And if you are. Geez, Grant, good job butchering that. If you are listening to us audio only, you have missed out on the live stream. So make sure you catch the live streams every Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about awesome stuff in this industry. And we are actually going to be changing the format of the podcast. We'll be covering more professional subjects and talk about the value of 3D printing in industry, and not so much of the industry topics and news. Now, don't get me wrong. If there is a really cool, like, if for some reason Desktop Metal goes on another buying spree, which of course they just bought another company this week, we might, break the pattern. But we are pushing the podcast to be more business to business focused so we can use it as a marketing tool. Content creation, we need money. You guys know how this goes. And if you want to support us directly, you can do it through Patreon. I am not shameless, absolutely shameless. Just one point about the Kickstart income, Nadav says, and I'm guessing there's going to be more to that comment. I do like they put a ball screw on it. E as in Elvis. E is like Elvis. I don't know. All right, well, I tried. I do like the ball screw. So ball screws, Brad, do you know the benefits of ball screws over lead screws?
I'm sure there is one, but I don't know it.
Ball screws have zero backlash. To give you an idea, a ball screw, such as its name, utilizes balls, and it's a ball bearing, on a metal rod, or a metal threaded screw, versus a lead screw, which is just normally a piece of brass on steel. Over time, lead screws will wear and they have backlash, and it's a known problem about backlash. Backlash, when you're dealing with high resolution printers, is a huge deal, especially resin printers. Now, they tend to deal with this pretty well in the fact that the vat comes out, or that the build plate comes out, then goes back in, right? So any backlash you had is set identical every single time. But that suction force is such that if you don't have something with a high mechanical advantage, like a ball screw, you can actually bend your frame. This is a concern that's been brought up on the Mars 3, is that it's not great. Some people's Mars 3s are seeing some bending during the peel. Now, does that matter? I don't know. I don't believe that it will impact print quality at all, because by the time it is dealing with the suction forces and causing the whole Z-axis to bend, but it's steel. It will spring back by the time it goes back down. So I don't think I'm too concerned about it. I am concerned about suction forces on this machine. If we look at the pictures on their Kickstarter, we look at the videos on their Kickstarter, they're not showing a build plate to me that looks like it can handle any of the forces, right? If we look at, and I think Uncle Jesse did was it an E-Pax or was something? It was a new printer that he just talked about, where they got rid of the suction problem by putting a bunch of holes in the build plate, which ended up trapping resin. So there really doesn't appear to be a good way around it. I know.
I think it's Hano.
Hano. Yes, okay, Hano. All right, I want to get people's names right when I can. Hano. It's okay. You can pull my chains. It's fine. As long as I have at least 2 of them, because then I'd be 2 chains. Brad, I don't like the fact that you don't respond to my bad jokes. You just sit there and just blindly stare at me like I am upsetting you. Like I am your
I don't have
child,
anything
and
to
you are
say.
looking at me like, yep, I'm responsible for this, and I hate every moment of it. Nadav says there is a lot of overhead in the payment field, and I agree. I mean, you figure Kickstarter's probably paying 2% on average to process a credit card payment, so I think 5% is pretty reasonable because they got to make 2-3% on it.
They passed 2.6 million.
Of course it did. Like, and I'm not surprised. I will put money on this is going to be at 3 million by the end of the day, and there's no reason it wouldn't. It is
And
odd
they still
to
have
me.
30 days.
Yeah, and it's for 30 days. It's odd to me that Elegoo chose today of all days to launch it. I don't know if it's like in bad taste because it is the 20th anniversary of September 11th. Brad, you were not alive for this. I was in middle school when it happened. And like, it's like the Challenger disaster. My father vividly remembers exactly where he was when it occurred. I vividly remember exactly where I was when the first plane, the second plane, and the towers falling. I remember all of these things. I remember watching it. I remember hearing it. And I don't know. It just seems odd to me that Elegoo, and like, they're not blind. All right. Miss Deutsch laughed at my crappy jokes. So that's good. At least I can get some pity laughter out of someone. It's one of Justin's teachers. Because Justin can't be here, so apparently his teacher will be. I appreciate the views. Yeah, I remember it well, especially because my school was right next to a naval base. So there are some other things that occur when that happens. Ben was a first-time watcher and listener, gotta head out, but he likes this. He'll be back next week for sure. Thanks, guys. Ben, we put out videos every single weekday, and you know what? I think this is a perfect time to mention it. We are changing the Friday video. We're gonna start doing Fail Fridays. Brad, you're giving me a surprise look when we have definitely discussed this. We are going to be spending some time during the week going through social media accounts. So if you have a print failure, I want you to tweet at us. I want you to tag us on Instagram, tag us on Twitter. I don't care. Find a way to get those pictures to us. And I'm going to scrape Reddit because I hang out on Reddit anyways. And I believe that I want to turn a series where we look at the problem, we look at the solutions the community says, because a lot of times there are a lot of wrong answers. We look at it from our perspective, and we do maybe 5 or 6 of those in a video. And I think that's a great way for newbies that are dealing with problems to go through and figure it out. And one of the ones that I want to go after is wet filament. And I think like once a month I want to do a meme one. And I had a lot of fun with this the other day. I think it was in Wexter's Discord. Somebody posted a resin failure and they said wrong answers only. I said, it looks like your filament's wet. It's a resin failure. Of course the filament's wet. There is no filament. It's all liquid. But yeah, take care, Ben. Nadav says, on 100 million process, you will get about 3%. You'll need to convert fees on top of that. Yeah. Miss Deutsch says she has a lot of fails. Yeah, I understand that. We've gotten better, but failures do still happen. And I think even on professional grade machines, failures still occur. It is still a commonplace, and there's really no way to get around it.
Running this on my tool changer, it took probably 30, 40 actual prints finally get one.
I was going to say, that looks really good.
20 different revisions of G code.
See you, Ben. And see, like, it's frustrating. And I understand that it's frustrating to people because, like, you bought a tool, okay? Didn't mean to disturb you. Freaked her out. It's not like a pair of side cutters where you know how to use them, they just work. This is a tool that has so little documentation and education out there, and everybody looks at it wrong. And part of my goal for doing Fail Friday is, one, to also increase engagement on the videos, because Cunningham's Law is beautiful. It is deliberately say the wrong answer and wait for somebody to correct you. with the right answer. And there will be times where I won't know the answer, but I want to display it for others to see because I believe there is value in it. And I think like Fail Friday Makes is not a bad hashtag. So the goal will be, if you have a failure, tag it and hashtag Fail Friday Makes. I'm going to put a Google scraper on it. So anytime hashtag Fail Friday Makes is in there, I'll get an email. Because
when I do the Discord bot, I'll do that too.
Well, then you can set up a Discord bot. See, look at this. You're getting yourself more work. This is cool. I like this about our staff. They're like, you could try this. And I'm like, all right, why don't you try this? And we see if it works. Wait, Nadav's watching on a Kindle? Is that possible? That's cool.
Apparently.
Yeah, apparently that's cool. Yeah. So some people think that all prints are failures, and I want to know, why are all prints failures? And I'm gonna get it wrong. Is it Hino? Damn it, Elvis. Hano. Sure.
Hano.
I'm gonna keep screwing it up. Why are all prints failures in your eyes? And I'm gonna take a pot shot here and say that you can see the layer lines. It's not as high detail as you want. It takes too long. Some of the basic complaints about 3D printing as a whole. And I think Elegoo is working on solving that. But like, I look at their cob source. So one of the Kickstarter things is they have their chip on board. So cob, COB, chip on board. That light source to me is not good. I want to see a matrix array, but I feel like Elegoo's got time to solve that. The mini air purifier is cool, but I don't really care about that. It is inconsequential to me. We have full air purification in the room, and actually, you can hear it. If I stay very quiet...
I can hear it when you're talking.
You can hear the hissing. That whistling noise, it's my air conditioner with it's got 3 MERV 12 filters. It's a lot of air filters. That's a really nice print. You're going to have to describe it, Brad, because remember, we have people that listen to this audio only that do not see what we're doing. So,
it's a green monster coming out of the ground. I don't remember its name. It's by Chaos Cortac on their Patreon.
mm-hmm.
I'll find it in a second. I'll link to it. But not looking at it, not knowing what you're looking at, you wouldn't say this was a fail, but it failed.
Where's the fail?
I mean, a minor fail, but I don't know how we'll see it. Look at the chin.
Oh, yeah. But you know what? It's a monster, so if the chin's a little messed up, that's just artistic interpretation. And
this is that print that I ran that intentionally slowly. It took like 6 days.
Oh, was that no, you did the brick. You did the cinder block to try to beat my longest print time.
The cinder block beat your record. This was an attempt to beat your record, but I didn't go slow enough.
So for those that don't know, when Brad first got into like hardcore 3D printing, he asked me what our print record was, and it was 120 hours and 49 minutes. That is the longest 3D print that we've ever had. But that is at speed. It was a 1,700 gram print, and it was a human skull at 110% scale. One piece on the Lulzbot Taz 6. So Brad went out of town. Is that when you went to go visit Printed Solid?
Yep.
Yeah.
This one was when I went to visit Printed Solid. The other one, the cinder block, was after I got back.
Okay, and so what you did is you set up a cinder block, literally a cinder block, as a print, and turned your print down to how fast?
I think it was... Oh, 1 second. I actually have the profile still saved. I can look at the speeds.
It was
very slow. Unnecessarily slow.
It was unnecessarily slow.
Every single speed 5 millimeters a second.
Yeah, okay, right. And so
with ironing.
I can't sit there and say that like you legitimately own that record, because mine was at 115 millimeters a second.
I beat your record.
Okay, but like, you know, I can also beat Usain Bolt in a race if he's running and I'm in a plaid. Okay, does that mean I'm faster than Usain Bolt? Technically, the answer is yes. But is it right? I don't know.
I guess.
But no, I think it's hilarious.
I don't have it in my room, otherwise I'd show it. It's not even a good looking print because it was so slow. It like melted on itself. It didn't even look that good.
I'm trying to get like every little bit of self-promotion I can in for this one. Was that skull at 100% infill? No. It was a fully hollowed human skull for a comedian locally called the Red Skeleton. And you can imagine what it was. It was the actual head of the skeleton. But it needed a ton of support. The skull itself was only like 6 or 7 millimeters thick because it was hollow. It was actually a scan from the Smithsonian. So the Smithsonian releases a lot of their 3D scans as open source so you can download them. And that's what we utilize. So we utilize that, we clean it up, and we print it on it. Maker Viking says his record is a little over a week. And like, if you've got big friggin' printers, doing prints that big is no issue. And that is a concern to me. And see, I'm always trying to segue back to the Jupiter because I want to make sure that we cover this subject well. This is going to take a long time to print. Its build volume is, let me find it, 278. So it's, what is that? 278 by 156 by 300. And Elegoo has teased that they might do a 500 millimeter upgrade. And you know what? That's kind of cool.
No.
Huh?
That's a lot of resin.
That is a lot of resin. We are going to be testing some resin coming up soon, where I'm going to do some big prints with it because somebody else paid for the resin and not me. And I want to make sure that I give it a good test. But you know, the thing that always worries me is when you have a print like that. Let's say it's a big print, maybe it's a full helmet or something like that, where it's liters of resin. The refill system on the Elegoo Jupiter is only for 1 liter bottles. So how do you add more than a 1 liter bottle?
You still have to be there and pause the print and change the bottle anyway.
And Brian made a good point. You need a UPS if you have bad power for long. And quite frankly, if you have a 3D printer and you're looking to do long prints at all, you should be using a UPS. A battery backup.
I didn't have a UPS, but it was on the Mark III, so it had the power pairing.
We
even had
used
to manually
rely on our power, but hilariously, it was almost 4 years ago that I built my first battery backup, and it is still running today. When Hurricane Irma came through. Right before Irma came through, we had some power issues, and I lost a 35-hour print 32 hours into it.
Oh my.
And like, that's really frustrating. And it was on one of our printers. It was on a custom built D-bot, on our big D-bot, where it does not have power loss detection. That did not exist when we built this printer. And I lost that print, and my power was really reliable. So I went out, bought new batteries for the APCs and UPSs that I have laying around because, well, that, everyone knows somebody with a dead UPS because the batteries are dead, or you can go to your local thrift store and generally find them for pennies on the dollar. The first time you lose a resin print, a big one, like on a Jupiter, it will pay for the UPS. If not in resin cost, but in time. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of people seem to ignore in this industry is the time. And I recognize that Prusa has power loss detection, but that doesn't work if you're using a material like ABS or even a big print in PETG, where if you turn off the bed, you're gonna have problems. So I think there's definitely some more things that can be done. Maybe that when the printer gets power again, it just instantly keeps the bed warm.
Doesn't it do it on the Mercer?
I have no clue. I have all mine turned off.
Oh,
yeah.
I had to manually trigger the power panic a couple times during that cinder block print because I got I accidentally knocked the bed and it was moving so slowly it didn't trigger.
Oh yeah, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't trigger that. We actually had to turn that off on our machines too. I'm gonna go with the concrete stones here pretty soon, I think, to try that out to see if they work better. But when we have all 4 Mark III's running on that shelf, they can actually trigger each other's sensor for skip steps because they start to resonate in a very in frequencies that trigger it, which is kind of odd. Maker Viking is lucky. He's lived where he lives for 5.5 years, and there hasn't been a single power outage. We live
impressive.
in Florida, right? Like hurricanes come through, power companies.
Power outage every other day.
I'm on with Wachoochee River Electric, which is a co-op, and it is very consistent in terms of its power. We don't lose power very often.
I'm over-exaggerating as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
And I found the name of this model. It's the Surfacer by Chaos Cortec on their Patreon.
And you know what? A good point was made. And if you are using Octoprint, Power Panic does not work. Power Panic does not... Octoprint doesn't have Power Panic. It's going to lose where it was. So yeah, your printer might recognize there was Power Panic, but it doesn't matter. The print's gone. And I think UPSs are cheap insurance, right? If you are going to take 3D... If you're going to spend $500 or even $1,000 on a resin 3D printer, you should probably spend $100 on a UPS. I mean, especially for resin printers, because they don't require a lot of power, right? They don't require a lot of power at all. Resin printers at best draw like 40 or 50 watts, and that's only when the light's on. And so if you're dealing with a mono screen, which is on for 2 seconds every layer, you can probably get 20 minutes on a battery backup, even a cheap one. So like, yeah, and yes, there's Bob Cars. Of course, Bob is here. Hey, Bob, how you doing? Bob says, of course, battery backups are great. Bob is the resident battery expert. He knows everything there is to know about batteries and why I do things the wrong way. And well, I think the big thing that I want to talk about with this as well on the Jupiter is it is confirmed it is running a Qi 2 board. And Brad, how do you feel about this?
I mean, from when I don't have a resin printer. I'm not as involved in that, but from what I have seen, I understand there wasn't really much of an alternative, but that also wasn't the right decision.
Yeah, there isn't much of a choice out there right now. And, you know, that's a problem. We look at what's going on with the systems right now. So, we had Qi 2 Box release their SDK license. It's absolute and utter garbage. Qi 2 Box used to be open and free. The boards were cheap. And then they said, whoa, wait a minute. We're missing out on some money, and built a wall faster than Donald Trump. And they said either pay us or don't. We don't care. You have to use our boards. And I think a lot of the fault falls on the entire industry for relying on a single source provider. They said on their TikTok stream that Qi 2 and Lychee had come to a deal and that it would be supported as Lychee by Lychee as well soon. This was pointed out in the Lychee Slicer Discord, and this was apparently news to the Lychee team. So that's what Maker Viking said, and I saw this too. Literally, they're like, yeah, this is news to us. Actually, let me see if I can find the exact quote. That way I can quote it. Because, yeah, it's like, what? Oh, geez. It might be a bit before I can find it, but yeah, Maker Viking says, so someone is lying. Wow, you're surprised that Elegoo is saying things that might not be 100% true? No, it was on Elegoo's TikTok, not Qi 2 Boxes.
Oh.
Yeah. Qi 2 Boxes doesn't have a TikTok as far as I'm aware.
I don't.
I know, and we're going to start a TikTok soon, now that I found a way to do it. We're going to start one soon. Which means it's going to be full of 3D printing stuff and videos of my cat. And if you don't like that, what's wrong with you? Honestly, go get help. Speaking of which, we need to have our mental health episode. We haven't done that yet. I got to schedule that. Mental health and small businesses.
I schedule a lot of things.
Well, you know, I'm busy. Maybe you should schedule it. But yes, I don't know if somebody is lying or companies are deliberately choosing to keep their cards to their chest. And
Or
I
if there was
guess,
a miscommunication.
okay, Bob, you can be a dog person, but also agree that this adorable creature is adorable.
I'm a dog person. I would probably never have a cat, but Victoria is adorable.
See, your dog rings a bell when it needs to
They
go
both do.
outside. My cat just
They,
goes to its litter box. It's great.
they,
Huh?
yeah, but both of them ringing the bell is better than them going in the house, I would think.
Why? I only got to deal with it like once every couple of days. It's great.
I mean, on the carpet.
She doesn't go on the carpet.
I'm talking about my dog.
Okay.
Dogs.
It
Dogs.
is pretty cool
They,
though. I've been over to your house
they
when your
wouldn't
dogs.
use a litter box.
I've been over to your house when Hope rings when Hope rings the bell. I'm like, where the hell's this bell coming from? And he's like, oh, the dog needs to go out. I'm like, what? He's like, oh yeah, they're trained to ring the bell. I'm like, seriously? That's kind of Amber's like, I want to train Grant to do that. So Brian is saying, I think Elegoo went silent on the Cheetu issue because Cheetu probably paid them to be quiet, bigger discounts for Elegoo. Bob says mine just goes outside. Well, Bob, your wolf, Bob has a wolf, effectively.
Bob doesn't have a dog.
Yes, true.
Bob
Bob
has a
has
wolf.
a wolf. Bob's wolf is one of the sweetest animals I've ever met. It just stands in the doorway and looks desperate until Bob gives it a treat, and then it backs out of the room. I only saw the dog's butt the other day. For the first time, I've never seen the dog turn around otherwise, but it was kind of funny. Brian, I'm not sure, and I don't want to speculate onto payoffs occurring. I mean, clearly there is some subsidizing going on because otherwise the Mars 3 would cost a lot more. Right? You look at it and think there's basically $169 in that. That is for software. And if they can't make the Mars 2 Pro be that cheap, then there's no way they can make the Mars 3. Now, I did see they just raised the price on the Mars 3. I think it's now $500. So maybe they were doing pre-orders at the $300 mark. So maybe they were doing it as a loss leader. I don't know. I would guess that there is some discount occurring for Elegoo, and because they've made a bulk deal with Cheetu Box, that would make sense. That's very common. But they are still going to have to pay. And I'm gonna put blame on the manufacturers. I don't think Cheetu is technically wrong here. I'm mad at Cheetu for doing this, but I feel like all the manufacturers need to take similar blame. Elegoo specifically needs to take blame on this because they adopted this knowing that this could happen. Is there a new DLP version of the Mars 3? Elegoo, stop releasing printers so damn often. Oh, it is. Yes, it is. $500 a DLP version of the Elegoo Mars 3. It's on their Twitter. Gosh. Why? Why?
What is DLP?
Huh?
What's DLP?
DLP stands for digital light projection. Instead of a LCD screen that is masking out the UV light, it uses thousands of mirrors on very, very tiny little servos that can project the light or remove it. The nice thing about DLP, and the Anycubic Photon Ultra is a DLP printer. That is a very tiny DLP printer, and it's like $600. So Elegoo loves to just troll the entire market because they don't care. They can operate on massive economies of scale that other companies cannot.
Is DLP better, different, the same, worse than MSLA?
Some people say it is better. I don't know. So the industry moved away from DLP years ago. I had a Kubo 3D Titan 1. That was a DLP printer. But it literally used a projector. A DLP projector that you sat underneath a piece of glass that your vat sat on top of. That is effectively what they're doing, but they're integrating the DLP chip with the light source into the printer itself to keep it on a smaller scale. But the trick with a DLP, from my understanding, is that the image that it is projecting is always the same resolution. So the Photon Ultra has a 720p resolution. Well, you might look at that and say, well, wait a minute. My Mars 2 Pro has a 4K resolution. That 4K resolution is across the entire screen. The 720p resolution is for whatever it is projecting. So if you're projecting a small miniature, you can get higher detail and you are not limited to the size of a pixel. Now, I can't confirm or deny this because I don't have a Photon Ultra to test. Hi, Anycubic, I'd love to get one because I want to pit it up against its competitors. People, I think VOD or VOG, I don't know. There's a YouTube channel. They have one. And they're like the only channel that I've seen that has one of these printers. But I haven't seen them put it up against anything. DLP is supposed to give you better resolution. But I am of the thought here that it is a diminishing return. At some point, it is only going to get so fine. And if you are looking to paint your models, it does not matter. Your paint is going to fill in a lot of that detail anyways. But yes, Brian, thank you for pointing that out. I missed that it is a DLP version. Because why would Elegoo tease a new printer on the day that they're launching another one on Kickstarter? Like, what? What? Bill says DLP avoids the fragile LCD glass. It definitely does. That is a big benefit, that you can just use a thick piece of regular glass and it's totally fine. Julian says, oh, well, Lychee's here. Hi, Julian. DLP was way too expensive, and that's why the market moved to MSLA. I agree. The Kubo 3D Titan one was like $1,500. But now with the DLP module, it's going the same price and it is more interesting because the pixels are way more precise. And so that seems to confirm what's going on.
How much does the MSLA version of the Merge 3 cost? I can't seem to find it.
$300.
Oh, so it's more expensive. The DLP version is more expensive at $500.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? And I don't blame Elegoo for making it more expensive. But I feel like they're just trolling at this point. Elegoo control companies because they have the market share and the dollars coming in from their other printers, right? They launched the Neptune 2, I think, just to piss off Creality. They're launching the Mars 3 DLP just to piss off Anycubic. They're just the bear that wants to poke people. You know, and Julian, I'm a little upset with the TikTok thing that happened because, like, that's not cool. I think Elegoo is presenting false advertising to their people, saying, hey, buy our printers, even though what they're saying, if it was true, I feel like you guys would have dropped it in your Discord already. You know, but I get upset when companies do this because it presents in a way that that isn't true, and it hurts, right? It hurts. C Catlit 1984 says, yeah, but you're not replacing the LCD every few hundred hours. For regular RGB LCDs, yes, they get replaced every 300 or 400 hours. For MSLA mono screens, they're like 5,000 hours. You're fine. And yes, they do last a lot longer. I still have a DLP television that I fixed in college. I graduated college in 2012 and then again in 2014. That TV still works, and until that stupid thing dies, I cannot bring myself to replace it. And it's the bulb that dies. The DLP module works just fine. It's the bulb that dies, and the bulbs are like $90. But yeah, it is still a bit more expensive than MSLA, and that's fine. I believe it should be. If it is providing better quality, there's no reason that you shouldn't charge more for it. But I am curious to see, and I guess we have a representative from Lychee on right now, is there a plan for Lychee to support DLP? Because I don't believe it is similar in the way that it would have to work. I would guess it slices the same, but the file format would, I believe, have to be quite different. Yeah. See, this is cool. I'm glad that we get, you know, people from actual industry to come in and hang out with us. And Julian, if you want, I would love to schedule you for an episode of the podcast. And even further, if you're hanging out and you want to come on live and hang out with us right now, I can send you a link. Apparently it is exactly the same, so that's a plus. So from a software side, that makes life really easy. I know back in the day, it was very different. We had to use the DLP as a third or second monitor on the computer. You had to feed it the GIF of what your print was going to be, and you had to have a stepper motor that was perfectly in time with it. Needless if I say,
I heard something, I don't remember where or in what context I heard it, but older resin printers were an external display.
yes.
And if you accidentally left your mouse on it, all of a sudden you had a mouse on your print.
That is correct. Yes. Yeah, so old MSLA printers, the Wanhao Duplicator 7, I think, was the last one to utilize this. You basically plugged into it like it was a monitor, and you fed it G-code, but it was a screen. It was a black screen, and it would just show white, and that's what it would do. They were jank as all hell. Julian says, if the file format does change, it's because they want to. I have a feeling they want to. This industry is now getting pissy. Elegoo is getting a little butthurt because they relied on somebody else to do the work for them. And now that everything's kind of blown up in their face, they're getting upset. Now, I feel for Elegoo, but I feel like with a company of their size, they should have had a backup plan, and they just didn't. They were thinking short term and not long term. The file format for the new Anycubic DLP is pretty much the same as the other Mono X, which is great. It makes it incredibly easy to support. I am bummed, and of course Julian knows this. I've been very public about my thoughts regarding Chi2 Box and what they're doing to the industry. This is akin to Stratasys and their patents, where they're saying, you know what, screw you. You can either pay or get the hell out. And at least they're offering people the ability to pay. But when you're looking at a $500 printer or a $300 printer for the average user, it does not make sense to spend $169 a year. It's $15 a month, give or take. But when I can buy another Elegoo Mars 3 that gives me another year of the Pro Chi2 box for $169, I'm more inclined to buy a second printer than I am to pay for the license fee. And okay, that's a selling point for Elegoo. But
you get a new printer every year.
Huh?
You get a new printer every year.
Right. But I like Lychee Slicer. And they don't pay me to say this, okay? They can if they want to, but they don't. They don't pay me to say this. I like their software. I believe they have one of the best softwares out there. And what makes it one of the best softwares is not what it can do, it's their community. And it's what I've said about Prusa printers. Prusa printers work, but you can also make an Ender 3 emulate a Prusa printer in terms of quality, speed, and everything like that with considerably less money than it takes to build a Prusa printer, right? But what makes Prusa better than Creality is its community and its support. Lychee has one of the best support Discords that I've ever seen. Okay, he said, we don't. Yeah, I know you don't. My wallet is painful, but no, it's fine. MT Polo asks if I'm looking forward to Rapid and TCT. I'm not going. It's not safe. It is not safe to travel right now. And Brad and I come from Florida, where the state is currently arguing back and forth as to whether or not forcing school children to not wear masks is okay. Our governor says no masks because apparently it's a constitutional right. I didn't see that. No shirt, no shoes, no service, but whatever. And there are a lot of people saying, well, this is BS. I can't in good faith take that anywhere else. I go out every now and then, but I can't reasonably quarantine for 2 weeks, given the fact that my girlfriend works in an ICU where she is treating those patients every single day. It would be irresponsible for me as not just as a person, but as a business owner to be going there right now. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. However, I will not be in attendance. It will, MT says, flu will be worse than the virus this year. I statistically disagree with you. But, I live with a frontline worker. So, but enough of that, because I can diatribe on that all day. I believe, and one other thing that I want to talk about on the Jupiter, it's a 6K screen. Some people might say, oh, well, that's great. Frozen has the Sonic Mega 8K, which is roughly the exact same build volume. And it's 8K. Now, again, I said screen resolution doesn't matter. It doesn't. But I want to know what the cost of the screen is. If Elegoo can keep the screen costs low, this is good. Because, like, I'm klutzy. I'm really klutzy. The chances of me dropping a build plate and cracking a screen, pretty high. I have dropped multiple build plates onto my original Marses. Thankfully, they're LCDs. They're not monos, so they're pretty strong. And I haven't cracked a screen yet. I did have one that came with a cracked screen, but I haven't cracked a screen yet. Now, I've punctured multiple FEP vats. But the one thing that Elegoo's been quiet about is cost of consumables. And that's something that I think a lot of people that buy these big printers do not realize, that screens can be something like $300 or $400. And yes, they'll last 4,000 or 5,000 hours if you treat them well. If you treat them well. And
if you don't drop your build plate on them.
If you don't drop the build plate on them, that's correct. And a build plate, the weight of a printer that big is pounds, right? You're not measuring this, well, okay, kilos or it's not an insignificant amount of weight, right? Add on to it a couple kilos worth of 3D printed parts. This is very heavy, probably too heavy for my crippled ass, but that's all right. I still want to see numbers, and it's frustrating to me because we don't know it. People that are pledging now $740, which is still 43.08%. Why they didn't just go to $750 is beyond me, or go half, because it's $1,300 the MSRP. So why do you have to call it 43.08? Just say save over 40%. It sounds better than 43.08. When you say 43.08, you're being that jerk guy from accounting that wants to go out to multiple significant figures because it's statistically correct. Nobody likes that guy. But I want to know what the consumables are going to run me, because, again, I'm going to replace FEP sheets. I want to know what that piece of FEP is going to cost. Lightning Rocket Create says, just wondering, is the Jupiter 6K? Yes, it is 6K. Its competitors are generally at the 8K mark. And Jupiter, you're probably new here. I don't think I've seen you comment on videos before, so thanks for coming. Make sure to like the video, yeah? And if you like what we do, you can back us directly on Patreon. We have tiers as low as $1. I mean, come on. It doesn't...
And subscribe.
And subscribe. Yeah, get subscribed, because we're supposed to say those things.
Part. That's a pretty important part to mention.
It's true. Yeah. I bring the notification bell. I don't know. Let's do all the crappy things influencers are supposed to do. But yes, if you subscribe to our Patreon, and I'm going to film them today, every single person that subscribes to our Patreon will get a personal video of me petting the cat and thanking them. And the higher the tier, the longer I pet the cat, which means it is more likely for her to start nibbling on me, which is fun. So if you want to see me get physically abused by my cat, make sure you subscribe to our Patreon. But we're going to start posting behind the scenes, extended cuts. We're going to start posting, like, me uncensored. So if there's any videos that we censor me, like when I'm cussing on camera and we censor it, we will post the uncensored versions to Patreon. So if people want to see, like, raw and unfiltered, you can go there and check it out. But yes, it is a 6K screen. Frozen has an 8K screen on a printer that's roughly the same size, and the Sonic Mega 8K from them is roughly the same price. Full price. And that's why I've said I believe Elegoo is not going to sit at the $1,000 mark. Elegoo did this for the original Mars. It's why I bought 8 or 9 of them. I think I bought 8 of them when they were first launched. They were launched for... They were launched at a $200 pre-order price with the assumption that it was going to be, when they told us that they were going to sell it at $300. when it launched officially, it stayed at $300 for like 2 weeks. It was then cut to $250, and like 3 months later, it found its home at $200. And I still, to this day, have an Elegoo Mars that is brand new in the box, an OG Mars. This is not a mono Mars. This is an OG Mars, and Brad has to come and get one of the broken Marses so he can have a resin printer. I'll give you a screen. All you have to do is replace the screen. And what we should do is we should do a video on how to do it, and you can do all the work, and I'll just be there to help you. Then we create content, and you get a resin printer. Just saying, sounds like fun.
I have to find somewhere to put it where the dog wouldn't be able to get it. Probably in the garage.
Garage is a good place.
That's where most of the printers, the FDM printers, are now, instead of all over the kitchen.
Julian says, it's going weird with your cat. Look, man, all right? My cat has her own stickers. She is our director of marketing. If you don't believe me, go to my website. She's literally listed as our director of marketing and our director of HR.
My dog's in my pop socket.
All right, I think that kind of wins. But have you trained your dog to sleep next to you when you're filming video? No, you have not.
I don't film video.
Lightning, if you can smell the resin, you've got a problem. He said that the wives love to complain about the resin smell. You need to put a VOC filter because you are new here, so you don't know that resin is toxic. The fumes from resin are not good for humans. If something smells bad, you probably shouldn't sit there and sniff it. Do you sit there and just sniff your own farts constantly? No, you probably don't, unless you're weird. Don't get rid of the resin smell. And it's actually pretty easy to do. You can make an activated charcoal filter that will filter out that smell. It does not filter out the harmful VOC in the air, but minimally it will get rid of the smell. So just be aware of that. You can put in some other filters to get rid of that. Elegoo sells one. I'm not a huge fan of it. I make my own. I have custom air filters in my air handler, which you can hear my air conditioning is running once again. Kento says, I'm hoping that the Elegoo Sun will be top down and more square size, as I've just been wanting a printer that's over 200 by 200 by 200, and even the 8K is 194. That is frustrating, and I totally agree. We have a job right now that I have to send out to a buddy that has a Formlabs printer because I need 200 square, and, well, it doesn't have it. Top down is tough. So, Brad, a top-down printer is really weird. You need a massive vat. So 200 by 200 by 200 build volume, you need to fill the whole thing with resin. The entire thing, because instead of it pulling out, it goes down into the resin. Okay? Those printers are generally better for bigger build volume stuff because there is no FEP sheet to deal with. And you can print faster. At least I think that's what he's talking about, right? Yeah, top down. Yes, top down. I think. Kento, if I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm pretty sure you mean like higher end resin printers that have a big bucket of resin basically and they print inside of that. But yes, it is the same resolution as the Mars 2 because the 6K at that size is still a 50 micron spot size for a pixel. And yes, top down is so much more annoying. I totally agree with you. However, it solves a lot of the problems that bottom up deals with. Because there's no more need for FEP. The FEP doesn't exist anymore because you are exposing the resin directly. Because the resin is below the light source. The light source is up here. The resin vat is down here. So it is very common in high-end resin 3D printers where you load them with cartridges. I don't know if the industry will ever get there. I mean, I feel like it's going to, but it will be egregiously expensive. If these 6K and 8K printers are in the $1,000 range, my expectation, and Brad, correct, let's talk about this, price-wise, is that something that has a vat like that is going to be $5,000 or $6,000. And I think at that price point, it's not going to do as well as a $1,000 printer. Do you agree with me, Brad? Yeah.
I don't know much about. I mean, sorry, words are difficult.
Words are hard. I understand. I understand.
I don't understand all the intricacies with resin. I barely understand all the intricacies with FDM printers, and I have four of them. So, but
That's fair. I mean, FDM is tough to understand because it requires like an absolute understanding of thermodynamics, and you are under the age of 18, therefore you have no need to understand thermodynamics to a level that I need to understand thermodynamics at 31. I am almost double your age. I will be double your age next year. Before you go up again. There is a certain point where I am double your age for a couple of years. And Julian points out a good point here. There is no FEP, but you must control the resin level. If you do not have something that is refilling your resin as you are using it, your level for where your resin is goes down, which means your spot size for your exposure goes up. Normally, these big resin printers like that are laser-based. So that would be moving away from MSLA and going over to DLP or SLA, which is just the laser-based version of it. And Kento says, I mean, if we could get that clip tech, I'd be fine with that too. I too would be fine with that. Clip, for those that don't know, enables incredibly fast resin 3D printing, almost constant, where you can just pull it right out. It's like watching a resin time lapse, but in real time. You're talking layers sub a tenth of a second. Crazy fast. But that technology is patented and protected by Carbon 3D. Yes, Maker, not all of us can be as mature and bearded as you are, sir. Maker Viking is a Viking and has a beard like a... When you think of what a Maker Viking would look like, and then you see him, absolutely spot on for the branding. And yes, you have to have a lot of resin. And normally, so Julian was saying that changing the color means you also have to drain the entire vat. When you are looking at printers this big, you generally don't change colors. You stick with one color, and that's what it's going to be. Generally, what we see in the professional industry is that it's always clear, because it can be painted. It's easy to paint it, but it's hard to make. It's basically impossible to make an opaque print clear. Also, clear parts cure faster, so you can go faster on clear parts. That's why the SL1S from Prusa can run very quick times on draft in clear resin, because it can expose larger thicknesses at a time.
I saw something on Reddit the other day. If you dunk a clear print in floor polish, it makes it truly transparent.
It can. And I tried this because we actually had a print that needed to be fully translucent. You must have your exposure settings perfect. If you are overexposing even a little bit, the print will be yellow. Floor polish does help. Any thick viscous fluid that you can float over the surface works. And polish works phenomenally, because that's exactly what it does for your car. It floats over that surface. Oh, yep, there's the Soraya Tech Blue Hope that I printed for you. That is missing a foot, right? Isn't she missing a foot? Yeah, one of the feet got messed up, I think. Julian said, did you see the ETA of the Jupiter March, June so late? I agree. This is a long time for delivery, okay? You are giving Elegoo upwards of $1,000, because of course shipping is something
also,
like $200, huh?
Also, Kickstarter is not a guarantee.
Okay, Kickstarter is not a guarantee.
You're supporting them.
But let's be real, it's a pre-order.
They have no obligation to send anybody anything.
That is correct. Elegoo has zero obligation to follow through on this.
That's one of the problems with Kickstarter.
But let's be real, if they don't follow through on this, I feel like there will be a non-trivial amount of people that will buy plane tickets and threaten them in person.
Yeah, but they don't have any obligation.
There is no legal obligation to provide stuff. And it's why we believe that Kickstarter for big companies is stupid. It's a marketing platform. It's a you're not using it for its purposes.
It's not a marketing platform. They're using it as one.
Yeah, they're using it as one. It is not a marketing platform, but they are using it as one. But yes, March to June of 2022 is a long time. You are giving money that you have right now for something that you're not going to get for 6 or more months, 6 to 9 months, okay? If I don't know about you, but I'd rather take that money and invest it wisely. And if you invest it wisely, you can be at that full purchase price by the time it comes out and not be one of the people that ends up getting into a paid beta test, because that's normally how this stuff goes, right? Elegoo is famous, especially on the Saturn. They made 4 separate revisions to the Elegoo Saturn, and unless you know what they are, you don't know how old your Saturn actually is. Anycubic made a revision to the Photon Mono X that lowered its Z height. There are some that are 250, there are some that are 245. They change their carriage system to make it stronger, but they don't state that there's an obvious change. You just find out when you get the printer. Let's see. I'm trying to see where I looked.
We've almost passed 2.7 million.
Whatever happened to those ideas about floating resin like on a salt solution? Kento says. I have no clue. This is the first time I am hearing about it. If you want, Kento, if you have Twitter, tweet at me the stuff that you saw about that, or you can email us, youtube@3dmusketeers.com. That sounds like a really cool video, and I will give you a shout out in that video if we do actually make one. Real G Machine, sure, says, any cool ideas for your first print on the Jupiter? I am not backing the Kickstarter. I do not believe that the Kickstarter is the right way for this printer to be released, and therefore I am not going to back it. When you have a company that is 6 to 9 months out of delivery on a product, it is not done yet. It is not done. They are still going through revisions. If you look at the light source that they have, it's a cob light. My Elegoo Marses have cob lights. The industry moved away from cob lights and went to matrix LEDs years ago because cob does not expose the entire bed as evenly as a matrix system does, and even further at a matrix system with lenses. Their cob does not show that it has a lens, has a waveguide, has anything. So that tells me that this is not done yet. And while I recognize that Elegoo is trying to build some cash right now, maybe they are kind of cash poor and they need to get some cash from this Kickstarter, I wholeheartedly disagree with the way that they're doing it. Straight up, and that's my personal opinion. If you want to back it to get one of the machines for cheap, I don't blame you. But don't be upset if your printer doesn't work 100% out of the box. Also, don't be upset if you're stuck in Cheetu box, because you should know this as you're going through it. And we actually have some...
Also...
Go ahead.
Also, don't back Kickstarter with money you need. Back it with money... Like Joel says, back it with money you can set on fire.
And if you can set $740 on fire, please... let me motion you over to our Patreon where you can join the Musketeer, which is $420.69, which, damn it, we need to still tweet at Elon Musk about this. We forgot to tweet at Elon Musk about this. We need to do that.
Oh, no.
Hey, look, if people make specific tiers for Loyal Moses and they get him to pay them $100 a month, I'm going to tweet at Elon Musk for $420.69 because I can. And you know what? If that makes me petty, so what? But you know what? I bet you would get more value at the $100 tier, because that gets you personal meetings with me toward whatever idea that you're working on than you would out of backing a printer for 6 to 9 months of wasting your money. I'm just saying, you could be backing our Patreon for 7 months for $100 a month. And I could guarantee you that you will get better value out of it, because every month at that tier, you will also get sent 3D prints. We will send you 3D prints every single month for free. Well, no additional charge.
You can also become a staff member, and then you get paid for personal meetings.
I could what?
You can. I'm the general you can also become a staff member, and they get paid for personal meetings.
That's not how this works, Brad. The patrons don't become staff members unless.
No, I'm not. It's not. I meant instead of Patreon, you would.
Yeah.
The joke was no longer funny. You ruined it.
No. We pay you guys. I don't get paid yet. But no, enough like shameless plugging. I will shameless plug to like the video though, because we have 15 people watching and only 8 likes, and that needs to change. It needs to go up. Excuse me, it needs to go up. But yeah, I will look at buying a Jupiter when they come out and any kinks that come out from the Kickstarter are resolved. And what would be the thing that I would print on it? Big freaking resin parts. Like, come on, that's
a big hope.
I don't know, man. That would get expensive. Maybe a big hope if you're nice to me. If you're nice to me, it'll be a big hope.
Speaking of big hope.
Yeah. Now, Maker Mike says, I wouldn't buy anything with exception of a new house with that long delivery time. I totally agree. I don't know if you can build a house that quickly in the States right now. It's pretty tough to get materials. And quite frankly, it's pretty tough to build a house right now just because of the cost. But I have to agree. That's a long time for money to be sitting. Consider this like you're just burning that money. And Brad, I think that's the best way. That's a great disclaimer to have on this.
I think that's what, I don't know exactly how Joel phrases it, but whenever he talks about a Kickstarter, he always starts it off by saying, don't back a Kickstarter
with money
unless it's money
to lose. Yeah.
Unless it's money you can, I don't know how he phrases it, but like burn in a fire or something.
Yep.
It doesn't, you won't be in trouble if you never get anything for your money.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? The Oh Low Oh No video that we did, 9 of the printers were shipped. 3 of the people that got those printers have commented in that video in the past 3 days. Yeah. We have over 30% of the people that got those printers commenting. One of them's kind of mad at me because he's like, it feels like you're being a little rude to us, saying that we were morons for backing it. I don't think I was that way, but I did apologize because I don't want people to feel like I'm being rude to them. I'm not. You're welcome to make whatever financial decisions you choose to make. But Julian says that for brands like Elegoo, Kickstarter is only for marketing. I 100% agree. Now, I will say they did put a fair bit of cash into doing this Kickstarter. It is pretty. It looks really pretty. I really, really like the way their Kickstarter looks. But if they spend 10 grand on it, what the hell does it matter? Also, this printer weighs 40 kilograms, okay? That's 88 freedom pounds. That's a lot of weight. That's a lot of weight. So just, be aware of that. If you have a bad back like I do, it probably won't work.
And that's without resin. And resin is heavy. Resin is also toxic.
Yes, all of that. All of that. Brad, are you putting bots in the Discord? What are you doing? Oh, you're doing the tweet bot. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm like getting pinged in my own Discord of things.
When you were talking, I tried that, and I don't think that bot's going to work, but I'll look into it after the podcast.
That's fine.
I don't know if it'll be possible or not.
You're good. But yeah, I poo-poo Elegoo for this. And hilariously, Uncle Jesse is getting some heat right now because he also talked about Kickstarter not being great, but did a video on the launch and did tweets about it. Now, Uncle Jesse is clearly getting financial support from Elegoo. I can't blame him. It's business. But it does kind of suck. It does kind of suck. I mean, would I do the same thing? For the right amount of money, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I would for the right amount of money. Lightning Rocket Creates asked, doesn't the Elegoo Mars Pro have matrix lights with lenses? It does. Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And that's why I'm wondering why the Jupiter doesn't. The Jupiter, they are touting a cob light. Damn it. My big flashlights aren't in here. I have magnetic flashlights. They're out there because I had to work on my car the other day. Those are cob LEDs. The lights on here. This is a cob light. This is a cob light, okay? And it's crazy bright. But it's not a selling point.
You should have had a warning before you did that.
Well, I didn't have a warning. It's not a feature. And when they're not touting a matrix, and they're not, like, when Prusa released the SL1S, they showed you that they were calibrating the light sources so that the light is consistent across the whole bed. Elegoo's like, yeah, we have a cob light. If you don't know what that means, sucks to be you. It means chip on board. It means chip on board. Okay? Yeah. So it does, and that's why I'm curious as to why the what the hell? Why the Jupiter doesn't have one. I gotta get a drink of water. Give me just a second.
Is that a finite? Is that they're not going to change that, or is it
I don't know.
an early, because it's an early?
I don't know. There is no.
Also,
answer.
they passed 2.7 million. They raised $100,000 in an hour.
Now, it's like we're watching a company do a Series A investing live, because this is basically what this is. This is series investing without Elegoo giving up a percentage point of anything. We aren't, but people are backing a company for something that doesn't exist, and they're not getting a percentage of the company out of it, which is crazy. It's like Elegoo is selling common stock without selling common stock right now. This is why I have feelings about this industry that I don't like.
And this is why you don't use Kickstarter.
It's why you don't use Kickstarter.
If you need the money.
Julian says a new house is faster to get than the Jupiter, especially if you 3D print it with concrete. I am trying to find a plot of land that is not too far from Tampa. I don't want to live too much farther away than I do now, that I can buy, because I want to 3D print either a building or my home, my future home. I think it'd be more fun if just 3D print a building on it, because I could turn that into the shop.
The 3D print, yep.
And then we can make a YouTube video out of it, like 3D printing my business.
Just one YouTube video? That's like a whole series, and it'll take 3 years to finish.
You're right. And you know what? The cat told me that right before you did. I'm sorry. She is the director of marketing. I mean, look, you can tell she's very much awake and attentive. Right? She is absolutely asleep. Absolutely out. But yeah, you can build a house faster than that. You can go buy a house faster than that, too. Krista Deutsch says, I'll like it later. Please do. Please do. For a brand like Elegoo, really, Kickstarter.
Oh, we got a dislike.
We did? Well, screw you, whoever did that. Why would you dislike our stream? I am live talking about this, responding to your comments. Like the damn video. Julian says, for a brand like Elegoo, really, Kickstarter is not a problem to work with. It's like the Creality Kickstarter. It's just a marketing platform. Yes, and I think we all kind of know that, but making sure that we put that disclaimer out just in case is valuable.
To make sure people don't think we're recommending they spend their money on it.
Linus Tech Tips just went through this. One of his most recent videos he did on the passively cooled computer, where everything on it's passively cooled. They talked about when they got a pre-production sample from a Kickstarter, and they egregiously recommended. They loved it. They thought it was amazing. So a bunch of people backed it because of what LTT said, and the Kickstarter flopped. Very few people got their computer cases, and people were rightfully so mad at LTT. We don't want that. Do not back this Kickstarter if you cannot lose the money that you would spend. And don't be upset if there are delays. Now,
and if you also have money like that, put it towards our Patreon.
Yes. You gosh darn right. But it does upset me. It upsets me because this is not what this industry is for.
Or that platform.
We got a lot of comments on our first Elegoo Jupiter video stating, oh, why are you so pissed off? They're doing it because they can. You're right. I'm pissed off because they're doing it because they can. Because Kickstarter is not enforcing their own terms of service. Because they're making a payday on this. They're making a payday on this. And as a small business owner, I might look the other way too. But it's ethics. If I'm going to make $125,000 to look the other way, it depends on what you're having me look the other way on. Because there's a lot of things that 125 grand solves for me right now that I don't have the ability to do. And a company like Kickstarter has so many failures on it in the 3D printing industry. I mean, let's not even discuss the Peachy printer. That was the first 3D printed house. You don't know the story of the Peachy printer? You're looking at me like you don't know the story. You don't know the story. Okay. Brad, remember, you can shake your head here, but you got to also say no, because there are people that are listening audio only that don't know this, and they just think I am talking to myself in the third person, which is a little weird.
Especially when you're calling yourself Brad.
I'm not William Shatner. My other personality's name is Brad. But so the Peachy printer was a $100 resin printer that raised millions of dollars on Kickstarter. You can look it up. What happened was one of the owners embezzled all the money and bought himself a house, or built himself a house, I think is what he did.
How do you spell it?
Peachy, P-E-A-C-H-Y, exactly how you would expect. The Peachy printer. And it was a really interesting machine. Some people got their hands on it. It got a lot of press because at the time it was one of the cheapest printers on the market. And it got millions of dollars in backers. And what ended up happening, there was lawsuits. A dude built a house. And the joke was always that the Peachy printer was the first 3D printer that built a house. Because the money was embezzled. So Lightning says it weighs like 7 Elegoo Marses. Something like that? Yeah, I think it's something like 7 Elegoo Marses. I like the Jupiter. I think there's value to it. But if you don't have a need for such a big build volume, I think you're better off getting the Saturn. I do. I have multiple
And you also
Saturns.
can get the Saturn in a week, and you're guaranteed to get it instead of spending.
You can get the Saturn in 2 days, if not overnight. You can buy it on Amazon.
Instead of spending $700 on a printer that you may never receive.
Right. Right. Let's assume you're paying $1,300. Okay, so let's just go with you're not backing out of Kickstarter, you're buying at full price. I don't even know if then that I would recommend a printer this big unless you legitimately need it. If you need volume, you are better off having multiple smaller machines, I think. Because if you...
And also a fail.
A fail means less loss. For FDM, it makes sense to have multiple smaller machines. For resin, it's the same, right? So if I have one machine that has one big build plate versus 4 machines that have smaller build plates that equal one large build plate, they will print at the same speeds.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is if you have one tall print in there and a bunch of really small ones, you can put the tall print in one of your 4 and the small ones in the other 3 and be able to turn it over faster. My big deal is the failures, right? We had Atlas 3D on here. They showed off their printer that they're working on that uses 3 lead screws, 3 distinct axes for the Z. And they solve the peel problem, right? Because the Jupiter just rips it off the FEP. That's a lot of suction force. Seriously. When I'm running my Saturn, you can hear us rip, rip, rip every single layer. I would bet
that's going to be annoying.
It's honestly, I cannot record when I'm printing on the Saturn because it's so loud. I would bet the Jupiter is as loud, if not louder. If you can peel it, so if you have 3 independently controlled Z screws, you can move your build plate whatever way you want. It also enables auto leveling, so you don't have to do any of the BS of trying to align things and all of that. It just works. It just works. They can then have a peeling algorithm that reduces the stress on the prints. And that's what a lot of these companies, I think this is where Elegoo missed the ball. If Elegoo had put 3 ball screws or 3 lead screws, I don't care. Ball screws are better. Lead screws will work. To work on that peeling mechanism, dude, that's amazing. But here's the problem. Chi2 box and the Chi2 boards do not support that. They don't support it. The Chi2 board does not have the ability to independently drive 3-stepper motors. It is not possible. So that's why Elegoo can't do it. Maker Viking says dislikes are also engagement. So yes, we like engagement. He says, aren't you, Grant? I'm assuming that was something about the third person and talking to myself. I don't know. Peachy was one of the printers that floated resin. I remembered the printer, but not who made it. I believe you're right. Yeah, I believe it was a floating resin printer. It was weird. It was cool because it was all
And
like clear acrylic. Um, but
real
yeah,
G machine asks, just what benefits a large resin printer has over multiple smaller printers?
the what?
What benefits a large resin printer reasonably has over multiple smaller printers?
Was that in Twitch? Because I see that right in the YouTube
No.
comments as well.
Yeah, I was in YouTube. I just wanted to read
Oh,
it.
okay. Benefits being cheaper consumables. Okay, so your screens are cheaper. You should viably have to replace them less because if you drop a build plate on one screen, you didn't drop it on all four. Your FEP is cheaper and easier to use. And then even further, if you're doing prints with multiple sizes, you can split them up amongst those printers and enable you to really run all the small prints at once, get those done quickly, then go ahead and move on another printer, do the taller ones. Also, when you have print failures that are detrimental to the whole print, you lose less models. Okay, so also you have a much lower risk of puncturing and breaking your screen when you're scraping failed parts off your FEP film. You will also deal with less peel forces, which I think is one of the biggest things regarding smaller printers over big ones for resin. The peel forces. There's a oh, I'm sorry, my back really hurts. There's a lot with these peel forces, a lot of force. If you don't believe me, seriously, listen to your resin printers as they're printing. That what you hear is your print physically being torn off of the FEP film every single time. And that's why a lot of us oil our FEP sheets. We use Teflon or PTFE. Some people say don't do it. I am of the brand. Every bit that I can do to help myself, I'm going to do it. So yeah, real G machine. I believe that the throughput is beneficial, right? So if you have models of multiple sizes, there's benefits to having smaller machines. Your screens are cheaper. You should viably have to replace them less. And you don't hurt a big screen if you're only doing small parts. Also, you need less resin in every single vat. So I do like the resin fill that Elegoo has, but as someone on Reddit pointed out, the issue that you run into is the resin still separating during really long prints. The Jupiter should be able to do prints that go for 15 or 16 hours, and that is long enough for resin that is not being moved or mixed constantly to separate. So that is something to be aware of. So yeah, I mean, if you need something really big, then get a really big printer, right? That's fine. But if you don't have a need for a really big printer, you are generally better off starting with something small. Also, big build plates, really heavy. I have a bad back, so that's more of a personal reason. But like Brad, imagine if your printer weighs 40 kilos, so 88 freedom pounds. How much you think that build plate weighs?
Oh.
What?
Is that included in?
I guess it is. Yeah, I would assume that it is. The whole printer weighs 88 pounds. How much you think that build plate weighs before you add resin to it?
15 pounds.
That's a lot of weight for a build plate. And the printer its full dimensions are 498 by 358 by 750. So this thing's it's 3/4 of a meter tall. It's half a meter wide by almost half a meter deep. I mean, this is a big girl. But Elegoo I swore I saw it, that they were talking about doing a 500 millimeter upgrade. So I could be wrong, but I believe they were talking.
But I also haven't followed this closely.
And Bob makes a point as well. Beyond the weight, the larger size covered in slippery resin is more cumbersome. It absolutely is. And for a printer that size, I believe that we will see issues with people trying to use flex plates. I already see flex plate problems with all of with like the Saturns and some of these larger printers, because they're so damn big that the peel forces can cause the flex plate to momentarily separate from the magnet. And of course, once it fully separates, the flex plate pops back up. But at that point, it might have shifted, and problems, right? Problems. That is my concern. And I'm not certain that there's a good solution. I know in Uncle Jesse's review of the Frozen Sonic Mega 8K that, they put holes in their bed, and his concern of it being, a resin trap, totally valid. His concern about failed prints getting all stuck up in there, trapping more resin, totally valid. His concern about being able to clean it when you change colors, again, totally valid. I love flex plates as well. I need to install mine for my Saturns, but I did see a Reddit post that was a print failure that you could absolutely see, and Julian, this was so weird. At the corners of the model, it was warping like it was printed out of ABS. And it ultimately ended up being the flex plate. We told the guy, hey, the next time you're printing with this, record it. And the dude posted the video, and you could see the flex plate was every single layer. It was basically coming off. But yes, I have 2 flex plates, but now I have more than 2 big medium size now resin printers, so I got to order more of them.
You have a flex plate for the Wolfbot.
Okay, well, that's not a resin printer, and I do still need to install that. And you know why I haven't installed it yet, right?
Because
I can't flash the damn printer. I can't flash the damn printer.
Oh. I thought it was because it would permanently change your bed, and you...
I don't care. I can get another bed from Project R3D, which he never responds to my emails, but that's fine. Joe's busy. But no, it's because I can't update the printer's firmware.
Why not?
Because for some reason, the newest Cura Lulzbot edition on any of my computers crashes as soon as I try to update the firmware. But that's a video for
Can you go to an older...
Huh?
Cura? Can you try an older Cura?
I can, and I have an old version that does work, but the firmware for the printer is so old that it doesn't work anymore. It's weird. It's like running old versions of firmware on Prusas. It's just not the same anymore. So Kento says, I wonder why resin printers these days use a rectangular screen instead of a square one. I think 200 by he said 230 by 230, 12.8 inch screen would be more useful than a 16 by 9 aspect. It absolutely would be. But remember, they're not producing the screens in-house. They are buying screens from LG, Samsung, screen manufacturers, right? They're going to buy them from screen
manufacturers. Who are already making them in 16 by 9.
Who are already making them in 16 by 9. That is correct. The demand for screens out there right now is not square. It is 16 by 9, 16 by 20, and even further ultra-wide variants, and not square. The square builds are going to... You're going to see...
an ultra-wide resin printer?
I wouldn't put it past one of the companies to do it just for the hell of it. A curved screen resin printer. That would be stupid.
They're not curved, it's ultra wide.
Right. I was joking. But yeah, it's because the industry demand exists for rectangular screens, and I can't necessarily blame them for not wanting to make their own damn screens. Screens are expensive, and nobody wants to do that. We've got side-by-side comparison with and without flex plates highlighting inconsistencies. Yes, that is correct. I want to do a video on the flex plates, but if I'm going to do it, I want to use Wham Bam plates, and I got to make an order for a mutant from them anyways, so I figure I'll just do that when it happens. And it looks like the Mars 3 DLP has an official size, 130 by 80 by 175 millimeters.
How does that compare to the non-DLP one?
I don't know. Can you look that up for me? And the XY resolution, they're saying it's a 1440p DLP printer. Honestly, is Elegoo just trolling everybody? Because it feels like Elegoo is just trolling anybody. I don't know. I feel like they're just trolling.
The Elegoo Mars 3 is...
Kento says, really? There are 6K, 12.8 12.8-inch screens lying about? Yes, absolutely there are.
It's 89.6 by 143.36 by 175.
So, okay, the DLP Mars 3 is smaller than the Mars 3.
What were the dimensions of it again?
The DLP is 130 by 80 by 175. So its XY is smaller.
By 10 millimeters, yes. I don't know why.
Yeah, but that matters, right? When you're looking
at
size, it matters.
It does matter, but it's also a small. It matters, but it's a small amount to matter.
Kento says, I can understand 4K, but 6K seems like a more custom screen. I agree with you. It does seem like a more custom screen, but I do not believe that Elegoo is making their own screens. You would have to have a significant upfront cost, right? The industry moved away from LCD screens because they were using phone LCD screens. That's what they were. They were LCD screens that were from phones. That's why that's why all the cheaper, smaller printers are the same thing. Screen manufacturers saw that they can utilize mono, and it's faster and it's cheaper to manufacture because it's not a red, green, and blue pixel. It's just on or off. They saw that, and so they started manufacturing those. But yes, 6K, it is a more custom panel, but my guess is Elegoo is getting 6K panels for cheaper than they can get 8K panels. But yes, Bob says some high-end tablets get that crazy. I'm going to point my fingers at Apple. They've got 5K displays, right? And that is obviously a non-standard display. But LG, who else? LG, Samsung, and of course their Chinese manufacturer components. They're all making the screens. Like, I'm sorry, but companies like Elegoo, they're not in the business of making custom screens. That's not their business. They're going to outsource that to someone, and anybody that's in this business knows better than that. Don't reinvent the wheel. It already exists. And a 6K is an odd size, but that's likely how they can sell this printer for $600 and not care, or pre-order the printer for $600 with no guarantee of delivery. Of course, do not spend money you are not willing to lose on a Kickstarter. But this brings up another point. How many people are going to back this Kickstarter, get the printer, and not understand how to use it? It's a concern that we have as a service bureau, right? 3D Musketeers, the company that supports the YouTube channel and this podcast, right? The YouTube channel is 3D Musketeers, okay? It's my company. We do a lot of resin printing because resin is toxic. And generally speaking, people don't understand this risk. And we've seen multiple images of people that have spilled resin on their skin, and it will cause chemical burns. And I don't want to see people that buy these big printers or pre-order these big printers or whatever the hell you want to call it, I do not care, that end up hurting themselves and poo-pooing the industry over this. This is something that I cannot stress enough. And it's like, this is also why, Brad, you don't have a resin printer. Because, one, you've got 2 dogs that are incredibly curious about everything. My cat has grown up around 3D printers.
They're not just curious about everything. They're curious about how everything tastes.
My cat has grown up around the machines. She does not care about them. Does not bother the 3D printers. The one thing she does like are the little skirts and brims that end up falling on the floor. Loves to mess with those. Loves to mess with those.
But she doesn't need them.
Sometimes she will. Like, it happens, but she'll throw it up later on.
For the most part, she doesn't need them.
It's little bits of plastic. I'm not worried about it, right? Let's be real. It's a house. There's other crap in here that I'm sure this cat gets into. There's probably worse stuff. Exactly. Little bits of plastic, not really a big deal. Especially because they come right back out. My long hair is more of a problem than little bits of plastic, okay? But yeah, she doesn't care about the machines. Little hands, right? Young children that don't understand this might like, oh, it's like slime. That will end up burning your skin. And that's a problem. Kento is asking, does anyone think that there would be an all-in-one resin printer, like merge between a printer and a wash and cure? No.
I don't know how that technology would work.
Well, So I have a printer that is like this. So I have a Z Corp 650 or a ProJet 660 Pro. They are a full color sandstone printer. They're capable of 16.4 million colors. Yada yada. They're $70,000 brand new.
And they're not. It's not a resin printer.
It is not a resin printer. It's a powder-based printer, but it has a whole wash and cure station in the printer. So it's got its print volume, and then it's got a wall. Next to that wall is a completely separate chamber where you can depowder, clean, and then infiltrate, which would be the curing process where you coat it in super glue. It is stupid. I have Oop, getting a phone call. Hold on. Stop it. They're calling my cell phone, so whoever it is, they can wait. Or maybe they're not. They could be calling. Nope, they are. They're calling the company line. Oh, well, they're going to have to wait. The issue that we run into, though, is I can't run the depowdering station on that printer unless the printer is not printing. And a lot of times with these bigger printers, you need to be turning over prints quickly or you're losing money. So having a separate depowdering station makes sense. I've got an Anycubic Photon Mono X. That's what I have. Or Anycubic Photon Wash and Cure Plus. That thing is awesome. But I can run it separately from my printers. I've got a regular Anycubic Wash and Cure. It is broken. I'm going to fix it. But the board is completely shot on it. And Anycubic is unwilling to help me. We already replaced it once. Okay, it died again. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I've got it on the cleanest power that exists out here, okay? It ain't on me. Let's see. Lightning Rocket creates that. I saw a guy on Reddit giving his kid the bottle to fill the resin vat. He pours it onto the floor and starts rolling around in it. Thankfully, nothing happened. I have no words.
Let's just go on to the next one.
Words. I have no words. Okay, it was... My brother said I was expecting a call. It's someone that wants to print something for a Nintendo Switch. So that's fine. They can wait. So, yeah. I like the idea of an all-in-one, but I don't think the implementation is going to work. And it's going to be huge, right? I want to be able to separate the stuff when I can.
And the technology, to have it in one spot, I don't even know how that would work.
Yeah. And, like, what if your wash and cure station dies? Now you have a really big resin 3D printer that you can't use all the space for. So I look at it and say there are benefits and side effects to everything. I would have hopped on the auto washing. I would have hoped the auto washing cure would mean that you don't have to touch uncured resin. That resin would be cool. Toxic. Huh?
Resin is toxic.
Resin is toxic. That would be cool. But, like, I'm really persnickety. I will hang my prints off to the side to let them drip back into the vat for as long as I physically can, because I don't want to contaminate my liquid. So if the print's done, I want it to turn it on its side, let it drip for 12 hours, move it over into a machine that will then wash and cure it. So either your vat of liquid has to move or your build plate has to move between two machines. That is either have to be done by some sort of robotic arm. Money.
Or you.
Well, no, he said fully automated, so you don't have to touch it at all.
Yeah. Oh, that would be expensive.
Dope. That is dope. I think it's a cool idea. That is awesome. Even the high-end versions of these machines that I've seen, like high-end resin 3D printers, do not do this at all. The high-end ones, of course, use big vats of fluid and they're top down rather than bottom up. And those don't do that at all. But they're also like $200,000 machines, so it's a little bit of a different perspective. So I don't know. I sit here and I say there's got to be a better way. But because I'm not the one who has a solution, I can't sit there and say you're doing it wrong. I agree that there needs to be a better solution out there for people not touching resin. but I don't have a good solution to solve it. I think Formlabs does. So Bob says, don't the Formlabs folks have an automation system for that? I believe they do. I believe it's called their Cell. But it's very expensive, and it does use a robotic arm. It uses a robotic arm to make it happen. So, but like otherwise, I think the Elegoo Jupiter is good. I think if you don't want to...
massive.
What?
The Form Cell?
Yeah.
Uses a robotic arm. It's massive.
Yeah, it's like room size big.
It's like that pallet thing they use on. You know, the thing where you can have like 10...
Yep.
What was that
it's
called?
based on the same system. I don't know. They're a really expensive system that I'll never be able to afford unless for some reason they sponsor us and give me one. That's what I call it.
Please do. That would be cool.
And Lightning Rocket Create says, I guess you can use gloves.
It's called the Array.
The Array.
It's called the Array.
You can use gloves. In fact, my resin stuff is like, it sits right next to my desk. I use the big yellow kitchen gloves from the dollar store because they last multiple times of using them, and you can cure the resin off of them. So you can, when I cure my parts, I throw the gloves in there too, and I cure the gloves, and then you just stretch the gloves over a trash can, and all that cured resin falls in. Yeah, Bill says it could be done relatively simply, but it creates a huge problem with the washing fluid. I agree. I don't have a good solution. It would be a really cool thing. For now, I prefer the wash and cure stations that we have. I am curious to see what Elegoo does about a wash and cure station for the Jupiter, because there is not one that fits these big printers. I mean, literally, you have to use...
That's an interesting point.
Most people use a 5-gallon bucket. They use a 5-gallon bucket, and they build
and
a stir system.
And then the sun.
Yeah. Which all you need a magnetic stir bar, and you need a big PC fan and some neodymium magnets. And you glue the magnets to the fan blades. So you need a fan with even numbers. Brad, this is seriously how they do it. In the Wash and Cure Plus, it's a stepper motor with 2 magnets on it. That's all that it is. It's the same way in the standard Wash and Cure. It's a stepper motor with 2 magnets on it. Some people will use PC fans. So you get a really nice high-end PC fan. You glue magnets to it. You make sure it's balanced. Seriously, this is how it's done. And then you can have it stir. But when you're trying to stir 5 gallons of fluid, you need something with a lot of torque.
Fans don't have torque like that.
They don't. So you have to start them very slow. That's why the stepper motors work well, because you can slowly ramp up the speed. But yeah, like, I want to see more deliberate ecosystems. The printers are great. I want to see ecosystems. It's why I held off buying Elegoo Saturns until we had the ability to get reasonably sized wash and cure stations. Because, like, what the hell am I going to do? A lot of people use ultrasonic cleaners, and I love ultrasonic cleaners. They clean amazingly well. They clean everything. But the problem with ultrasonic cleaners is people put alcohol in them, and you should never put alcohol in an ultrasonic cleaner. It is dangerous. Do not do that. That's the problem. So we got to be careful. We use Mean Green as our cleaning fluid. Some people use alcohol. Alcohol works better, but it's expensive. A liter of alcohol runs like $1.50, where I can get a gallon. Or no. 500 mils. 500 mils of alcohol is about $1.50. I can get a gallon of Mean Green for $5. And Mean Green, I can separate the resin because it precipitates out. Uncle Jesse tried to do this with his alcohol, and it turns it into gel because the resin dissolves into the alcohol. Bob says we'll find out in 2 years if they make a wash and cure station for the Jupiter if they use the same timeline as they did for the Saturn. And Bob's right. Frozen doesn't have an answer. Elegoo doesn't have an answer. Nobody has an answer for big wash and cure. And people that are buying this as their first resin printer are going to have a very rude awakening when they realize we don't have a way to clean our parts. And they're gonna use water washable resin and wash it in their sink. They're gonna poison their waterways, and I'm going to forever remind them that, hold on, let me see if I can hit my desk at the same time. Resin is toxic. How did that sound?
How dare you disturb the cat?
I did. Well, it was worth it. I did it for the bit. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Don't bite me. uh, but yes.
That cat. No. Yes.
She's awoken from her slumber, and I should be punished for this. I believe that Jupiter is going to be a good printer. I am again concerned about what happens from the Kickstarter. Okay, so are these printers going to be fully fledged? Are they going to be beta units? You know, what are we looking at here? And then even further, what is going on with the light source, and why is it a cob, and why is it not a matrix LED array? What is going to happen with Chi2 box? And I think that's probably my biggest what if right now is really what goes on with Chi2. If we don't have a good answer for that, I cannot and will not recommend any new resin printers. If you understand that you are locked in a Chi2 box and you understand and you are willing to pay the $15 a month or $169 a year for it, then go ahead. But this industry is built upon open source, the freedom of choice, and the ability to say, I want to use any software that I want. Chi2 themselves utilize open source GPL code in their slicing. They are not GPL compliant. We have confirmed this. They use open source in their newest software. They are not compliant. Their SDK specifically states that if you use their SDK in something that is open source, you are in violation of the terms of service. So their own system is in violation of their own damn terms of service. I got a problem with this. And until this whole thing is resolved, and until we have an official statement from Lychee Slicer and what's going to happen, I am not going to recommend any new printers. That includes the Jupiter. And that hurts me, because I like the Jupiter as a printer. But it is the ecosystem and the walled garden that upsets me enough to say I cannot put my stamp on it. My brother just got home, so now the cat's going to go investigate. Are you good, Miss P? You out of here? Okay, goodbye. All right, well, she's gone, so we got to put the stunt double in. And yes, Bob, you need to try Lychee. The free version is the free version is generally good enough for most people, but similar to Lightburn and how Lightburn is the easiest software I pay for every year, I'm totally okay with paying for Lychee Slicer. I will say they did gift us a free year because of the videos that we make, and I'm totally cool with that, but that does not... The video that we made came out before they gifted me the license, so I did that video on a free license. We will eventually be comparing the pro versus free to see is it worth paying the money, but I'm
with a
pretty certain
disclaimer that we didn't pay for it.
Right, yes, of course. But like, hollowing is only enabled on the paid version. Okay. But it's $30 your first year and $50 every year after that. It's nothing. You use the hollowing feature a few times, and it pays for itself.
In the resin that you save.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Lightning Rocket Create says, to be honest, I like Lychee Slicer more than Chi2. Or does Lychee not support the Jupiter? Lychee Slicer does not support any of the new printers coming out right now. The Mars 3, the Jupiter, the Frozen Sonic Mega 8K, none of those are supported because they are locked down. They utilize the CTB V4 codecs. We are trying to do a video for Monday about this. I am trying to figure out a way that I can show you guys about liberating Mars without getting myself into legal hot water.
There probably isn't a way.
There is, if I don't show people how to install it.
Then what would the video be about?
Talking about what it does and how it works. If we leave out key steps, and I think my brother put it the best way. It's similar to how Breaking Bad can talk about cooking methamphetamine, and if you leave out some very key steps, you can't actually copy them. So I think I want to do something similar where we leave out very key steps, or we deliberately cut away from what would be a key step, and I come in and say, look, I
And do a
can't show you
sponsored
guys
segment.
how this is done. You can research it. But Liberating Mars unlocks the ability for Lychee Slicer to work on these new printers. However, it is incredibly legally gray and potentially illegal where you are. Make sure you check your local laws and listings. There will be a massive disclaimer in front of that video saying, this may not be legal. Make sure you understand what you're doing before you do it. I am not a lawyer. Do your own damn research. But basically, it encrypts a non-encrypted file and tricks Chi2Box into thinking that it is from their software, which then enables you to use Lychee Slicer. Lychee does not support this. They do not endorse it. That is not what they do. They are trying to work on getting actual communication with Chi2Box and Chi2 systems to get an actual solution that is valid, okay?
Unlike the SDK.
Well, they're in talks, and that's all they're willing to say right now. I reached out to them for official statements. All they would tell me is, we are in talk. And I understand that, because they don't want to harm anything that's going on right now. But until we have an official, supported solution, I am not going to risk my business on Chi2Box. Because Chi2 has clearly done this once, where they wall guarded you and said, hey, if you want any of these features that you were used to, you gotta pay us. What is to stop them from continuing to kneecap it? And if you are unwilling to do something that is legally gray or potentially illegal in your area, then you could find yourself stuck paying for it. And that is not a good pill to swallow. I think that's where I want to end it, because I think ultimately you have to make your own decision. Me, I can't be stuck on one slicer. It's why we utilize open source 3D printers. It's why we use Prusas. It's why I have a Lulzbot. It's why, even though I have a Fusion 3 F410, which is closed source, I've built open source profiles for it. I utilize their closed source slicer, but I can also utilize it on Prusa Slicer. I can use it on Simplify 3D, which is closed source. And now with Prusa Slicer 2.4, effectively useless. If you guys haven't seen Prusa Slicer 2.4, go check out our video and live stream on it.
Simplify 3D had.
What?
Any last hope Simplify 3D had of redeeming them?
Oh yeah, it's over. They have no hope of redeeming themselves. Prusa Slicer just went for the jugular, and it's over. But yeah, guys, that's my opinion.
V5 win.
What?
V5 win.
V5 win. Yeah, V5 win. Lightning Rocket Create said, by the way, is Jupiter launching soon? It is already live on Kickstarter.
With almost $2.8 million raised.
Yep, the $600 tier is gone. I think the $700 tier is gone, and we're now at the $740 tier. No, okay. The $600 tier is completely gone. The $740 tier is still there. I know someone that did the 2 Jupiter kit, which is insane that someone would spend that much money. But yeah, within the first 5 minutes, all 500 of the $600 pledges were gone. It was their Kickstarter servers were damaged from this. Well, not damaged, but they were slowed to a halt. People could not get their payments in.
Actually?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yep, the payment processing was taking too long, so they were likely loading down I think they're using Aiden. I think they were loading down Aiden servers, and the payment processing wasn't happening quick enough. Huh?
The hug of death.
The hug of death, my brother says. But yeah, so if you want to support the effort of creating the Jupiter, again, remember, there is no guarantee. I mean, it is effectively guaranteed, but there is no guarantee.
They have no obligation to send you anything.
That is correct. That is correct. And Bob says that is normal for an Elegoo launch. I agree. It is normal for them to be sold out of their cheap ones quickly. There is no obligation. Go ahead, Brad. Do the disclaimer.
Yeah, there's no obligation for them to send you anything. There's no obligation if they send you a functioning product. They have no obligation for anything. You're just giving them money and hoping they send you something.
Yep.
So if you have money to spare, spend it on our Patreon. And
oh no, he cut out. He cut out as he was saying things. You there, buddy? No, you're muted. You cut out right when you were telling people about our Patreon. Yes, our Patreon comes with guarantees every single month, and that does include petting.
Can you hear me?
I can now hear you, yes. What happened?
I just got a pop-up that my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, okay. You dropped a packet or two. You were about to talk
Sorry.
about how awesome our Patreon is and why people should support us when your microphone cut out. So if you don't mind.
So if you have money to spare, spend it on our awesome Patreon where you can support us directly. And if you still have money to spare, spend more of it on our Patreon. And then after that, if you have money to spare and you want a Jupiter, still support our Patreon. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Damn right. Brad, we're going to make an influencer out of you. Actually, you're more of an influencer than I am, which is kind of funny.
Okay.
That's all right. We'll make an influencer out of you. Yeah, what reference is that? What reference did I just make? I made a movie reference.
Oh.
It's Mulan. Mulan? It's a reference to Mulan, and that would be a hilarious remake if we did that.
Yeah, except it's very...
And yes, Kento, Simplify 3D has not had an update in
I think
like
they've had
3
minor
years.
updates, but nothing.
Nothing that matters. Kento,
Yeah.
go subscribe to our channel. I've done videos on Simplify. I've done videos on Prusa Slicer. We just did one on Prusa Slicer 2.4 Alpha 1, which is awesome. And if you have a Prusa printer and you are not using it, what the hell is wrong with you? Go download it and use it. It's a little buggy, but it is worth the effort. As far as the Elegoo Jupiter,
Make sure to save, if you're using an alpha, make sure to save every time you do something.
yes. Oh my
You don't
god,
lose.
yes. And don't try to slice 150 megabytes worth of resin prints at once, because it will probably crash and eat 10 gigs of RAM on your computer. Not that I would know any of those things, but it definitely happened during recording.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about either. It definitely wasn't buggy, and I definitely didn't try to be a jerk to it. Bob, you know what the Prusa Slicer thing is. Go away. Bob,
Yeah, no time to go away. We need the watch hours.
well, no. Bob made an awesome mini dude of Bob Ross
Oh my God,
on his
that thing
MMU
is
and did the
awesome.
MMU painting. Oh man, it's so great. We love you, Bob. We know you.
We
We
do.
love you. But yeah, guys, we're going to get out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out. Elegoo Jupiter, is it happening? Probably. When? Sometime in the middle of next year, apparently. And I'm going to forget about it by then, but I'm sure they'll continue to pester us with marketing. And I guess the Mars
Hopefully-
3 DLP is coming soon because, you know,
Why not?
Elegoo just can't let one thing happen at a time. What'd you say, Brad?
I said, why not?
Oh.
In response to, and also, hopefully by the time it's launched, we'll have 10,000 subscribers, and they will be able to potentially get one for review
Yeah,
without actually paying for it.
Elegoo doesn't want to work with us because we don't have 10,000 subs, but that's okay.
So help us
maybe
do
we'll
that, and
show
don't forget
yeah,
to like and subscribe.
that's right. Help us get there one sub
Don't forget
faster.
to like and subscribe.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
We're almost to 1.8 thousand.
But you know, I'm hoping that they'll make exceptions because I think there's some things that I can bring to the table that not a lot of other reviewers can, but that'll be for another day at another time. Anyways, stay safe out there, everybody. Love each other from a distance. Don't forget to call your loved ones, and as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. What kind of weird send-off should we do?
LTTstore.com.
Stop that! That's somebody else's website! unless
Support our
we use
Patreon.
one of my vanity LTTstore.com. Alright, bye guys. I'm
Our
killing the stream
Patreon.
now. Goodbye.
Support our Patreon.